These are the words I hear the Spirit placing on my heart for you today. Chosen one, something brought you here today that was not an accident. And I want to say something to you before I explain anything, before I teach anything, before I show you what I believe God wants you to understand today. Congratulations. Not as a greeting, as a declaration over your life, as a recognition of what you have been carrying in silence, the weight of a season that made very little sense from the outside, that offered very little return for an extended period, and that no one around you could fully understand or explain. You kept going anyway, in faith and in doubt, in strength and in exhaustion. You kept going. What I want to show you today is that what you have been living through has a name. It is not suffering without purpose. It is not delay without design. It is the most serious kind of divine testing, and it is the most secret kind, because secrecy is not a flaw in the process. Secrecy is the process itself. What God examines in this particular test cannot survive being observed. It can only happen in the hidden place between you and Him, in the moments no one else saw. And the length of it, the strange and unexplained length of it, was not evidence that He forgot. It was evidence of how much He trusted you with what was being formed. The test is over, and what it built inside you is more valuable than anything it cost you. Stay with me, because by the time we are finished today, you will not just understand what you went through. You will understand who you have become. You did not choose this moment. This moment was chosen for you. And I say that not as a comforting phrase, but as a statement about how God moves. He does not waste appointments. He does not send this kind of message to the wrong address. If something in you recognized itself in what I just said, if something in you felt a quiet settling when you heard the word, congratulations. That recognition is not coincidence. That is God confirming what He has already been saying to you in the quiet. Before we go any further, I want to tell you what is waiting for you in this message, because what I have for you gets deeper as we go, and I do not want you to leave before you receive all of it. By the time we reach the end, you are going to understand the 5 specific signatures that confirm the test is behind you, in your own life, not just in theory. You are going to understand what was happening inside you during the hardest moments of this season. You are going to understand what is now being positioned for you. And before this message closes, I am going to speak something over your life that I believe you are going to carry with you for a very long time. Stay through to the end. Everything I'm about to share is building towards something. I want to start by telling you something that most people who have walked through what you have walked through never hear, because no one names it for them. And when something is not named, it is very hard to understand. And when it is not understood, the weight of it can become the story you carry, rather than something that happened inside a story that is already written. There is a category of divine testing that is different from ordinary hardship, not different in how much it hurts. In some ways, this particular kind of testing is the most painful kind, but different in its design, its mechanics, and in what it produces in the person who goes through it. And the first thing I want you to understand about this test is how it arrives. This test has no announcement. There is no moment where God sits you down and gives you a preview. No warning, no timeline, no instruction manual. It simply begins quietly, without ceremony, and at first you may not even recognize that anything has shifted. Life simply becomes heavier in ways that are difficult to explain. This test has no timeline. Unlike other difficult seasons where you can sense a horizon, where something in you can feel things building toward a resolution, this test offers none of that comfort. There is no visible arc, no moment where the pace accelerates toward something better, just continuation. And the continuation itself is part of the design, not evidence that nothing is happening. This test has no visible return. You pray, and the answer does not arrive in a form you can hold. You remain faithful, and the reward does not appear in a way that others can see. You keep going, and the environment around you does not change quickly enough to feel like progress. And so you begin to wonder, not whether God is real, but whether he is near, whether your faithfulness is being registered anywhere at all. And I want to say something about that wondering. That wondering is not the test. That wondering is the cost of being in a test that was designed to be conducted in secret. When you know you are being watched, something in you performs. You become more careful with how you respond, more deliberate with how you carry yourself, more aware of how you appear. That is not weakness. That is simply how human beings are made. But what God was after in this test was not your performance. He was after your person. The unguarded version of you. The version that shows up at 3 in the morning when no one is watching and nothing is working. The version that keeps praying even when prayer feels like speaking into a wall. The version that keeps choosing to stay, to remain, to not abandon, even when abandonment would have been understandable. That version of you cannot be performed. It can only be revealed. And so the test was designed to remove the audience, to make it quiet enough and long enough and dark enough that the only thing remaining between you and God was the real you. Think about the life of Joseph, a young man who carried something rare, a gift, a vision, a quality in him that was evident even to people who resented it. And from the outside, he had every reason to believe his life was heading somewhere significant. And then, everything went wrong. Sold by the people who should have protected him, transported as a slave to a foreign country, imprisoned on false charges, and for what felt like a very long time, there was simply nothing. No explanation from heaven, no visible progress, no timeline, just a man in a pit that kept getting deeper. He did not know he was being tested. He did not know that the betrayal was a beginning, that the prison was a preparation room for something that required precisely the character that the prison was forming. He simply lived it, day after day, faithful to what was in front of him, even when what was in front of him gave him no reason to be. And here is what I need you to hear. The proving happened in the pit. The palace was simply where it was declared. By the time Joseph stood before Pharaoh, what was being revealed was not something new. It was something that had been forged, quietly and invisibly, over years that looked like nothing, in exactly the kind of darkness he had been placed in. That is not ancient history. That is your story. And the same is true of David, anointed in private, with no audience, no platform, no announcement of what was coming. And then years of obscurity, years of faithfulness in a field where no one important was watching. The very gifts that would one day matter, practiced in conditions that seemed to have nothing to do with where he was going. When David walked out to meet Goliath, the crowd saw courage. But what they were actually seeing was the result of years of quiet formation that no one witnessed and no record was kept of. The proving happened in the field. The platform was only where it was made visible. And there is something about this pattern, something about the way God works, that I want to plant in you right now, because we are going to come back to it. There is a word, a Hebrew word from the ancient text, that describes exactly what God was doing in both of those stories, and exactly what he has been doing in yours. I am going to tell you what that word means in just a moment, because when you understand it, when you understand what it actually says about what God has been recording in your life, the season you have been through is going to look completely different to you. Hold that, because there is one more thing I need to say first. Not everyone receives this test. I do not say that to make you feel special in a way that is shallow. I say it because it is simply true, and because understanding it matters for everything that comes next. This test is given to people who carry a particular kind of calling, People whose assignment is large enough that ordinary seasons of difficulty are not sufficient preparation for it. People who must be formed at depth, at the level of their trust, at the level of their character, at the level of their capacity to remain themselves under sustained pressure. The difficulty of your test is not a measure of your sin. It is a measure of your assignment. You have been placed inside a furnace you did not choose, and I know that in the middle of the furnace, all you could feel was the heat. But I want to show you now what the heat was actually doing, what was happening beneath the surface, in ways you had no way of measuring or seeing during every day of that long and invisible season. And when you see it, everything is going to start making sense. Welcome back. And if this is your first time hearing this today, you are exactly where you are supposed to be. In the part of this message we just came through, we talked about the test, about what it looks like, about why it has to be conducted in secret, about how God used the same pattern in Joseph, in David, and in others who were called to carry something significant. And I told you there was a word, a Hebrew word, an ancient word from the text that describes exactly what God has been doing. I want to give it to you now. The word is bakan. It appears in Psalm 66, verse 10. And the text says this, "For you, God, tested us. You refined us like silver." The word that is translated as tested, that is bakan. And most people, when they hear the word tested, hear something that sounds like an exam, a moment where God checks to see whether you pass or fail, where you either make the grade or you do not. But that is not what bakan means. Bakan, in its original sense, describes something much closer to what an assayer does when certifying precious metal. An assayer does not put gold into fire to see if it can become gold. Gold is already gold. The assayer puts it into fire to prove what it is, to separate the genuine from what does not belong, and to certify it so that the watching world can see what was always true about it. And here is what that changes. If God was testing you to find out whether you were enough, then every moment of doubt is evidence against you. Every day of exhaustion is a mark on your record. Every prayer that felt hollow, every moment you struggled to believe, every time you asked why, becomes a point of failure. But if God was testing you the way an assayer tests metal, to certify what was already in you, then your story reads entirely differently. The faithfulness that showed up at 3 a.m. when no one was watching and no one would ever know, that is what he found. The prayers that felt hollow but were offered anyway, not because you felt them, but because you chose them. That is what he found. The decision to remain, again and again, in a season that gave you every reason to walk away. That is what he found. He was not checking to see if you were faithful enough. He was certifying, before heaven and earth, that you were. The gold was always gold. The furnace did not make it something new. The furnace proved it, removed what did not belong, and established what was true about it, beyond any reasonable doubt. You were always who you are. This season simply made it undeniable. Now I want to show you something specific, because what the assayer's fire does to metal, the hidden season was doing in 3 very specific areas of your life. 3 things that were happening beneath the surface, invisible from the outside, but real in every way that matters. What felt like isolation was actually incubation. What felt like delay was actually development. What felt like confusion was actually calibration. What felt like being forgotten was actually being refined. The first thing the fire was doing was stripping away identities that were never truly yours. Before this season, there were parts of how you understood yourself that were not built on solid ground. Identities that were handed to you by other people's expectations. Roles you stepped into because they were available, not because they were calling. A sense of who you were that was tied, in ways you may not have fully seen, to what you could produce, to how you appeared, to whether the people around you approved. And the season, quietly and without asking your permission, began to take those things apart. It was not cruel. It was not random. It was precise. Because what was being removed was everything that was not built to carry what is coming. The version of you that needed constant external validation would have crumbled under the weight of what God is about to entrust you with. The version of you that defined yourself by your visible output would have broken in the seasons of invisible fruitfulness that lie ahead. The fire was not destroying you. It was removing what was never meant to stay, so that what remains is entirely, undeniably you. The second thing the fire was doing was building a capacity that could not have been developed in easier conditions. There are specific qualities that only form under specific pressures. Sustained trust, the kind that does not require evidence to remain active, does not develop in seasons of abundance. Compassionate discernment, the ability to see clearly when your emotions are fully engaged, does not form in comfortable environments. Silent faithfulness, showing up and doing what is right when there is no reward, no recognition, and no logical reason to keep going. That is not something that can be taught in a classroom or downloaded from a conversation. It is built. It was built in you, in the long and hidden season, in the days that looked like nothing from the outside. People who have been through this kind of formation carry something that cannot be faked and cannot be copied. There is a groundedness in them, a capacity to hold difficulty without being destabilized by it, a quality in how they move through pressure that is immediately recognizable to anyone who has been through something similar. You carry that now. It is in you, and it is not going anywhere. The third thing the fire was doing was clearing the relational landscape around you. I know this one is tender, and I want to say it carefully, because the relational losses of a hidden season sit differently than other losses. They arrive in the middle of everything else you are already carrying, and they add a layer of grief that has nowhere easy to go. Some people left. Some connections that you believed were built for the long term simply fell away, or were taken from you in ways that were painful enough that you are still carrying them. I want to say something honest about that. Every relationship that did not survive this season did not survive because it was not designed for where you are going. Not because those people were bad, not because you failed them or they failed you in a final way, but because the season you are stepping into requires a different kind of company. People who can see what God has been doing and receive it without resentment. People who understand the language of someone who has been formed in silence. People who can carry the weight of what you are becoming without needing to diminish it to feel comfortable. The relationships that left created space, and into that space, something is already being positioned. Now, I told you earlier that there is a discovery I want to come back to, something rooted in decades of neuroscience research, something about what happens inside a particular kind of person during an extended season of invisible spiritual formation. Scientists studying the gamma brainwave, the frequency associated with deep intuition, with genius-level clarity, with what can only be described as a heightened state of spiritual receptivity, have found something that is directly relevant to what we are talking about today. They call it the decline effect. The process by which this particular frequency, which was naturally high in you as a child, the reason you once learned quickly and felt deeply and moved through life with an ease you struggle to fully describe now, begins to suppress under the sustained pressure of modern life. Here is what makes this significant. People who carry a particular calling tend to feel this suppression more intensely than most, because your gamma was higher to begin with, and the gap between the person you sense yourself called to be and the person you feel yourself operating as right now, that gap is the measurable gap of a frequency that was never destroyed, only dormant. A neuroscientist named Dr. Robert Lake, with over 3 decades of research in this field, compressed what he found into something I want to tell you about. A specific 7-minute practice that his research, along with work from institutions like MIT and Princeton, found can begin to reverse this suppression, to reactivate what was always there, to return you to the frequency you were always meant to carry. I am going to tell you exactly what that is, and why it matters, for where you are standing right now, in just a moment. But first, I need to show you something that cannot wait, because the season ending does not look the same for everyone. And I want to give you something specific, 5 clear markers that confirm, in your own life, not in theory, not in someone else's story, that the test is behind you and the next chapter has already begun. When you see these 5 signatures, and you will see them, everything I have been saying today is going to land at a completely different depth. Stay with me. The 5 signatures I promised you. I said that when you see them, everything I have been sharing today is going to land at a completely different depth. I meant that. Because these are not abstract markers. These are things you can look at in your own life, right now, and recognize. The first signature is a shift in what you want. Before the test ended, there were things you were striving after, with a kind of urgency that felt almost desperate. Goals, outcomes, validations, specific results you needed to see in order to feel like your life was moving. And sometime in recent weeks or months, something changed. Those things that once felt critical, suddenly they feel less urgent. Not because you gave up on them, not because you stopped caring, but because something settled inside you that does not require them in the same way anymore. You stopped needing the outcome to prove something about your worth. And that shift, that quiet release of the grip, is not resignation. That is the mark of someone who found security somewhere deeper than results. The second signature is a quiet that arrived without permission. The anxious monitoring of signs, the constant checking of circumstances, the mental scanning of whether things are getting better or worse, that noise has softened. There is a stillness that has come that does not make sense given your external situation. If your circumstances have not changed significantly, but something in you feels more settled than it did 6 months ago, that peace is not naivety. That is evidence. Peace that does not match your circumstances is one of the clearest signs that something has shifted at a level that your circumstances have not yet caught up to. The third signature is that specific things have become clear. Not a full roadmap, but specific things. A direction you know you are meant to move. A relationship you know is right. A decision you could not make before, that now simply makes sense. After a long season of fog, clarity does not return all at once. It returns in pieces, specific and precise, like light through a narrow opening that slowly widens. If you have noticed even one area of your life where the confusion has settled and something has become undeniably clear to you, that is the third signature. That is the clearing that follows the end of the fire. The fourth signature is that you can dream again. For a long time during the test, imagining a good future felt almost dangerous, was something you had to protect yourself against, because the disappointment of hoping and not seeing had become its own kind of weight. But recently, something has begun to return, a quiet ability to imagine something ahead that is good, to think about the future without bracing, to plan, not frantically, but with a sense that there is something worth planning for. That return of hope is not wishful thinking, is your capacity coming back online after a long season of operating in pure survival mode. And the fifth signature is that connections are beginning to arrive differently. People who carry a different kind of energy than the connections that surrounded you during the test. Conversations that feel like they are going somewhere. Opportunities that did not seem possible 6 months ago now appearing, not because you forced them, but because they are arriving. The right people, the right openings, beginning to surface as though something in the invisible world has been quietly repositioning the pieces while you were in the fire. If you have noticed even one of these arriving, that is not luck. That is the season turning. Now I want to give you another word, this one from the Greek. There is a letter written by Paul, and in the 5th chapter of Romans, he describes something that most people rush past because they think they already know what it is saying. He says that suffering produces perseverance, and perseverance produces character, and character produces hope. The word translated as character in that passage is dokime. And dokime does not simply mean character in the way we use the word today, as though it just describes what kind of person you are. Dokime describes character that has been proven through testing. It is the same word that was used in the ancient world for a currency that had been examined and declared genuine, approved. Here is what that means. What the test produced in you is not just a scar, it is a document, a certification. What came out of the fire is not a damaged version of who you were, it is the proven version, the approved version, the version that the testing process looked at and declared genuine without question, beyond any remaining doubt. You do not just survive the test, you become the proof that the test was worth giving. And this is where David's story becomes more than a history lesson. When David was anointed by Samuel, there was no ceremony in public, no announcement to the kingdom, no visible change in his circumstances. He went back to the field, back to the sheep, back to the long, quiet, ordinary days that looked exactly like the days before. And in those days, in that field, he did not know what was coming. He did not walk around in confidence that a throne was being prepared for him. He simply kept doing what was in front of him, tending what had been given to him, being faithful in the small, unseen, unrecorded work. And somewhere in those years, something was being formed in him that no classroom could have produced and no shortcut could have replicated. A quality of stillness under pressure, a trust that went deeper than understanding, a sense of identity that did not require external confirmation to remain stable. When Goliath appeared, David did not hesitate the way people who had only been formed in comfortable conditions hesitate. He was not performing courage. He was operating from a place inside himself that had been built, quietly and without fanfare, in a field where no one important was watching. The proving happened in the field. The public moment was simply where it was made visible. Your season in the field is ending. And what was built in you there, in the long and quiet days that no one was recording, is about to be made visible in ways you have not yet seen. But before we get to that, I need to name something. Because knowing that you passed the test and actually receiving what comes next are not the same thing. And there is a particular pattern I see in chosen ones at exactly this threshold. A pattern that, if it is not named, can cause someone to stand at the door of everything they have been waiting for and find themselves unable to walk through it. The first part of that pattern is a belief so deep you may not even know it is there. A belief that the good things coming are somehow too good to be real for you specifically. That they might be real for others, but that there is something about your particular story, something about the length of the waiting or the nature of the struggle that disqualifies you from the full version of what is coming. That you will receive something, but probably a reduced version, probably with conditions attached. That belief was formed in the fire. It was a protection. When the environment offers very little for a long time, the mind stops expecting much as a way of managing the pain of disappointment. That is not weakness. That is wisdom operating in a difficult season. But the season has changed, and that belief has not caught up yet. The second part of the pattern is a specific kind of doubt that arrives the moment the good begins to show up. Not doubt about God, not doubt about your calling, but a quiet scanning for what is wrong. A reflex that picks up the blessing and immediately starts looking for the catch, wondering whether this is real, whether it will last, whether you are going to end up more disappointed than if you had not hoped at all. I want to say something about that reflex with the same care I would use if I were sitting across from you right now. That doubt is not failure of faith. That is intelligence that learned, through hard experience, to be careful about hope, and it deserves compassion, not condemnation. But it also deserves to be gently released.